Well,
I
you
mean,
had RFK.
yeah, calls for RFK are still there, but I guess it was abruptly cut. So yeah,
I guess if you have money to
that
burn,
that settles it.
I don't
Well,
even
he's
care what
with
independents still bother. Like, when was the last time an
he's with
independent was actually elected?
never. I don't think maybe once.
Never,
Right?
never. I think.
It's a two-horse race ever since. Anyway, hello once again, everybody. Welcome once again to another episode of the Paper Straw Podcast. I'll be your host for today, Christian Tejares, and with me are my two co-hosts, the great Christopher Short and the intrepid Ian Rignon. And today we will be doing a pre-election roundup, possibly the end of the
Mhm.
world. So, those in the U.S., good luck.
And now for the main event of 2024. Yeah.
Yeah, so Chris, being the lone victim in this triangle of awful, how do you feel about the upcoming election?
I'm nervous, man. I really am. Well, I don't think it's a secret on this podcast that I'm right leaning for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but I think this might be one of the most consequential elections for one very important reason
And that
and
is.
very important fact that you can look it up, ask your non-biased friends, they will tell you the truth. Donald Trump, while in office, is the first president in like decades that did not have a new war. In fact, he stopped wars. He killed Al Salmani or whatever the fuck his name was. Um, Basically, ISIS was done. Iran was broke. Um, North Korea was behaving for the most part.
Mhm.
And then the Democrats come in, and you have a powerful Iran that's funding Hamas, that attacked Israel. You have Putin that just slid his way into Ukraine, uh, and I blame that because Joe Biden said publicly, "We're not going to do anything." That was basically like one of these, like, "Go right ahead. We're not going to do anything." Right. So just on that alone, the world, these powerful world leaders, Xi Jinping, Putin, the dickhead that runs Iran,
The
North Korea.
Ayatollah
Yeah,
Kim Jong Un.
they they don't care about diplomacy.
Yeah.
Right. It's warm and fuzzy when you think you can go and talk to a leader and come to an agreement. That's not the language that dictators speak. They they live and they thrive on fear,
Yeah, the
and they
Democrats
are
have
not
always
afraid of the Democrats.
the Democrats
And
have
they're
always
called
been a
dictators
passive.
for a reason.
Mm,
With a K, that is. If you know what
yeah,
I mean.
yeah, for sure. And it sure ain't the patatas part.
Yeah, the Democrats have always been a passive aggressive type when it comes to these things. Like, I guess the majority of the wars that's been happening is just because, one, in terms of Trump not having any wars, I would argue he didn't actually leave anyone any time to actually create any conflicts. Since, like you said, there has been a bit of diplomacy, even though the language, the rhetoric that he's been using has been completely uh, incendiary,
Mm,
so to speak, right? Full of
yeah,
threats, but he never actually shied away to go to these countries while threatening them.
right.
That actually leaves no room, because if you go, another world leader actually goes to your country and that country actually threatened you, you would be on your toes actually to actually notice that, hey, someone actually threatened us,
Mhm.
but he's going to our country. We might be under a microscope right now. That's why they're doing this. So other countries that we deem hostile right now might be much more conscious under that kind of leader.
Hmm.
When it comes to the Democrats,
Right.
under democratic rule, they rule by diplomacy, but it's through economy. And the other countries that were actually deemed as threats to the U.S. aren't actually besides China aren't actually economical threats if you think about it. So I can understand Biden saying we're not going to be doing anything about it because Democrats usually just move forward with countries that they feel can benefit them. There's no benefit for the US to actually go walk hand in hand with Russia. There's no benefit for them to actually walk hand in hand with North Korea. So what's the political logical political stance to actually do? Just monitor them and just keep them in check.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
was
but
the
that's the
last
thing. They
time?
don't keep them in check.
There is a guise of keeping them in check by offering sanctions. But what I've said before in this podcast is what do sanctions actually do? It just
Yeah.
furthers the problem by offering pressure not on the politicians but on the people of those countries.
Because sanctions are economic in nature. So
Yeah,
by
that's why.
threatening those kind of sanctions, it's not the politicians, it's not the leaders of that specific country that's uh bearing the brunt. It's the people.
Well, that's the thing with places like China, or not China, but North Korea, Iran, uh, Venezuela, um, these places, Russia, they don't care because they have China.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, like I
if the
said,
U.S.
China is the
isn't if the
only.
U.S. isn't trading with them,
No, China is the
then they'll
only
just
country that's untouchable right now when it comes to their economy and in
yeah.
terms of their infrastructure. Like a conflict with China at this moment. But can we actually? Do you think the U.S. would actually throw the dice right now and just create direct conflict with China at this point? I don't think so.
Not not this time. Not at
Because
this
even
point.
though the
Not at
U.S.
this
can
juncture.
actually dominate in terms of military strength, the military still needs the economy to actually push forward.
Exactly.
It still needs to be funded.
Right, right. But my overall point with me being nervous about this is these countries, not just Joe Biden. Obviously, we all know he's a he's a wet sock. Like he's fucking
Father
worthless.
cadaver.
Yeah,
A walking
Kamala
cadaver.
Kamala is not much better. Joe
Yeah.
Biden's like a zombie. Kamala's like a freshly bitten person that's turning into a zombie.
She's just realizing right now that she needs brains,
Yeah,
so to speak.
like
I
she
remember Plants vs Zombies for this. Thanks for reminding me, Christian.
she will not answer a question. She has no policy. She says in one interview, she says, "I'm not Joe Biden," which everybody's like, "Yay, she's going to get away from Joe Biden." And then in a subsequent interview, they ask her if she would change if she would change anything, and she said no. So you're not Joe Biden, obviously. Okay, fair enough, but you wouldn't change anything that you did. Nothing. Like you would still, if you had it to do over again, you would still send $80 billion to Ukraine.
Yeah.
You would still repeal stay in Mexico and re-implement catch and release. Like you would still do these things that have obviously hurt the United States.
What has what what is her actual agenda, by the way?
She's talking about opportunity economy or something. I don't know. She wants to tax. She wants to tax corporations, which I think even Reagan explained that they say it's a tax on corporations, but if you're making bicycles
Yeah.
and all of a sudden your taxes go up because you have a successful bicycle making company, your taxes go up. What are you going to do? You want to pay those taxes out of pocket, or you want to bump your price up a little to cover the taxes?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would like
So
to read
now,
fair point.
something regarding Harris's uh, political platform before. Like Harris has supported
okay,
gender reaffirming care for incarcerated people. Do you think the American public actually cares if people in prison can actually get free sex changes?
Well, that's
No, and that's taxpayer. That's taxpayer
Yeah,
money.
yeah,
that's
Somebody has
taxpayers'
to pay
money.
these doctors.
that's
Like these are the
taxpayers'
types
money.
of things that you need
She put people
to
in
remind
jail
people of.
in.
That's
Uh,
honestly, that's that's why what do
Never,
how can I
ne-
say it? It was
never, never have I seen so many buzzwords in one headline.
yeah. Mm.
yeah. I mean, what's the point, right? I mean, that's the only thing that that I can ask about that kind of thing. What's the point? I mean,
I mean,
they're already in jail for the crimes that they allegedly committed or have been convicted for. What's the
and,
point,
and I have to remind
right?
people, this platform was actually provided during 2019 before the 2020 elections. So whose voter are you actually going after with this one?
Yeah, it's not Harris for sure because it's in 29. It was in 2019, and who was the front runner during that time?
This was during the Democratic, I think the primaries that this was actually brought forward. Like, who are you trying to get with
Mm.
this kind of political platform?
it's that liberal California bullshit, man. That's just all it is. It's like the buzzwords. This was supposed to help her with the LGBTQ community. She was the DA of San Francisco, which we all know San Francisco's been gay since the 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the problem
they
with this
already
one
have
is,
a gay mayor
Well, it's
for that
super
one.
gay. San Francisco is just gay, like it always has been, it always will be. It's gay. Now it's gay and homeless.
Yeah,
the
I
she needs
mean,
to get an
no disrespect
identity
to
real.
Harvey Milk, but yeah,
She needs to get an identity real fast, real quick for this one, because in terms of her, there's already a question on whether she's actually claiming to be black, claiming to be Muslim on one end. She changes her identity with every state. She changes her stance. She needs to get something solid. If they are actually allowed to make a statement, a last one before the people actually vote, now's the time to actually do it. Like
yeah,
going
because
on a
yeah,
press tour on different types of news, except for Joe Rogan, I feel like it's a misstep on her part. Like Joe Rogan actually did reveal that they were actually supposed to have Harris, but his problem was they were demanding so much of him, and
Yeah.
wanting to have other people within the podcast to provide her with advice, I guess, for
yeah,
that to actually move forward. I would understand Joe Rogan not being comfortable with that. I don't think, in case of Trump's personality, I don't think anyone could actually advise Trump on what to say or not to say. Like this
Well,
guy
I mean,
hasn't been filtered since 2007.
he did 3 hours with Trump. He did two and a half, 3 hours with JD Vance.
Yeah, JD Vance.
He just did 2.5 hours with Fetterman,
Yep.
who due to a stroke can barely get through a conversation. Like not barely, like he knows what he's saying. It's just he has a hard time from like the brain to the mouth type thing. Hearing, he has difficulty with hearing. He uses like live captions and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, if even if you're, it's difficult for him, and he still did 2.5, 3 hours. And Kamala Harris, in all her glory, I mean, you go on Saturday Night Live. She went
Yep.
on Saturday Night Live. She goes
So
on the Breakfast Club. She talks to Charlemagne. She won't go talk to Joe Rogan because she knows she has zero substance.
yeah,
Zero.
the Joe Rogan podcast is actually gonna
love him or
be.
hate him. Joe Rogan is is a good podcaster and is a good I don't want to say pseudo journalist, but he has some journalistic questions.
Well,
Right?
that's what he was saying. He's like, I don't want to interview her. He's like, I'm not interested in an interview. I want to talk to her.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I was actually about to say. Like
Yeah.
Joe Rogan is more of a conversation. If you were a candidate, Joe Rogan is called the king of podcasts. Like we
Mhm.
bow down to the altar of Joe Rogan in terms of actually elevating this platform to what it is now. You're
Mm-hmm.
not gonna go to someone with that huge of an audience in an election year that we all agreed upon that you should win. How
Mm,
stupid can you be? If it's
Mm-hmm.
just the condition is just you, just being you, just sitting there and actually having a conversation, you can't actually do that even inside your own home.
right.
And Joe Rogan isn't
I,
actually a Republican. He's
no, he's
from the
not.
same base. Like you're not
He's
comfortable
old
with
school liberal.
you're not comfortable with your own people.
He's old school liberal. The liberals have the people didn't change. The party changed.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone was in agreement before this election that whoever the Democrat actually runs against Trump, it should be a layup. Considering
Should
all
be.
that actually happened after January 6th, after all the impeachments, the riots, this
Uh-huh.
should be a layup for them. It
Yeah.
makes
They
them
don't
look
have anything though.
completely incompetent.
They have nothing. They don't. The only thing they can run on is the things that you just said, and Americans
The,
don't care.
the sad thing for me about this is you are of the
Sadly.
mind that Trump would win this, right? It's no secret that you believe Trump. The sad thing for me is I believe Kamala would win this, and that scares me even more.
Gosh, yeah,
Either way,
And I
either
and I
way.
was the one who actually predicted that Trump would actually win in 2016 when I was actually laughed at by a lot of my friends.
mm,
They thought it
Yeah.
was a shoe in for Hillary.
Yeah. Either way, whoever wins, I hope the world will not be fucked.
Oh, we are. We are
well, there's
going to
only
be
one.
fucked. Either one of them.
I
It's
don't
just
think so, man.
I mean,
We
I hope that we would not be fucked too much. That's I mean, whoever wins, I hope that the world would suck less.
let me tell you why things would be fucked when it comes to Trump winning. It's not even just administrative situation. It's more of a media standpoint that this guy will be put under a microscope too much, and the media would
yeah,
actually detract everything from whatever is supposed to be done during his
yeah.
presidency. That's my fear in this. That everything is
That's a good
actually going to
point.
be played for the camera.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
and you're right. You're 100% correct. The media will not let. If it wasn't for the media, like when Trump was president, right? Okay, he says wild shit. But the fact of the matter is, employment rates were down. The GDP was good. The world was relatively at peace.
relatively
Um,
is the
yeah, relative, of
operative
course,
word that.
Um, and then the pandemic came along, which was orchestrated by Fauci, I believe. Um, and then if the media had given a fair shake, right? I don't mean like kiss his ass and only cover the good things, but give him a fair shake,
You
right?
just have
Like
to admit he hasn't actually done
yes, we
anyone any
almost
favors
had
regarding that.
CNN, MSNBC, CBS. He could cure cancer tomorrow, and they would blame him for not doing it last week.
Yeah.
Right. And it divides people, and it's just not, and the right wing media is the same way. Like Trump is God, Biden's the devil. It's not true. Biden's not the devil, Trump is not God. They're just regular dudes who have hard ass decisions to make. Let's be fair and stop saying he because the Democrat playbook for every Republican is either racist,
Yeah.
misogynistic, or there's always a label they put on these people to piss
Fascist.
either the minorities off or to piss the females off.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think it's
even.
the third one is
And now it's
fascist
homophobic. And now it's
or this
homophobic.
homophobic. Yeah.
Yeah, and no offense to the Americans that may actually be watching this. I don't even think you guys are actually being taught history in your schools
Yeah.
because
Oh no.
all of your descriptions are actually of the Democrats back then. You might forget that Abraham Lincoln is actually a Republican,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and he is one of your revered presidents. If you can't actually accept a Republican can actually be a good president, you shouldn't be voting in this election.
Mm.
Yeah.
Either way.
Democrats were slave owners.
Yeah. And I guess it was in the 60s that everything shifted, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the
Uh
industrialization actually helped with that, because a lot of people, the only acceptance of the minorities back then was when there was enough room for the minorities to actually display their usefulness to the country, like the emergence of industrialization, the building of the roads, building of trains, steam engine, everything regarding commerce. The minorities actually picked up the torch back then, and they were actually accepted into society. That in turn, I guess, changed the minds of the Democrats when it came to the emancipation. So that's when the roles were actually reversed. That is what I take it. At least that's my theory of what happened. Now, going back to 2024, the minorities still
Mhm.
play a similar role, but this time the deciding factor is who is more of a minority than the other guy.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
when they're
it's always about who's who's the worst victim. But
Well, I
I'm
mean,
actually tempted to say, but hey, that's just a theory. Shout out to Matt Pat. Enjoy your retirement.
Like, we're supposed to be talking about their agendas here. The problem with their agendas is their only agenda is I'm not like the other guy. Like what?
So what? Right?
Like, we've heard Trump's
An
agenda before.
intelligent voter would say, so what?
Like, Trump is one of the rare cases we already knew what we're gonna be getting with him. And it is just a matter of can we actually digest it now that we've tasted it before.
Mm.
Like the world actually experienced it. Kamala is pretty much like I mentioned a couple of podcasts back. Kamala's uh, presence is only experienced by the countries outside of the U.S.
Mm.
mm,
because she's been more sent as part of delegations rather than actually governing.
Mm. Basically, she's the chief diplomat.
Yeah, so
yeah, but my issue with Kamala is her campaign right now is I'm going to do this. We are going to do this. We have to do this. You've been there. You've been in the position for almost 4 years. Why aren't these things done?
yeah, you're partnered with a corpse. Why haven't you actually told that corpse what to do?
Like instead of saying her, it's mind-boggling to me because her campaign should not be saying we will do this. Her campaign should be saying, look what we did. But they don't.
Do you think?
Because what did they do? What did they do? They opened the border on purpose. There's no way. There's no way they opened border. There's no way that wasn't intentional.
Do you
Me
think
and
when?
you,
Yeah.
with zero experience whatsoever in government, would know that okay, let's not do that. Like, let's not repeal what was like 100 something executive orders on day one from Donald Trump.
Do you think
Remain in
when she
Mexico was
actually
working.
do you think when she actually replaced Biden, her main idea when it comes to her campaign is just actually distancing herself from the current administration?
She had they gave her the opportunity and she didn't take it on the View.
Ooh.
It's like, would you change anything? And she was like, nothing comes to mind. It's like this was the softball question that you just wait for it and then that's when you go in and you say I would do this and I would do this and I would do this and I would do this differently because the Biden Harris administration is not working.
Maybe perhaps it's a hit and a miss, or it's
She didn't even
outright
swing.
miss. She
She didn't
didn't
even
swing.
swing.
Holy
She was just
shit!
like, there was like, is there anything you can think of that you would change? She was like, nothing comes to mind. And it's like,
I don't think
what? Like, even
that
as
would
a,
be a best answer for that. I don't even think that criticizing the administration would be a better answer. I think she should have just said that nothing comes to mind regarding this, but I would have added, and
maybe,
I would have the opportunity to actually add these to what we have right now if I'm actually elected. I feel like we haven't actually gone to this length or to this place of actually implementing these things. But if I'm elected, I would actually pursue this. Not that we
What
don't
Harris?
want to do it right now. It's just that it wasn't its time. God damn it! I could have been a much better candidate than her.
I'm saying,
And you know what? What Harris just did in the View, is actually a sin against the ninth rule of life of Jordan Peterson. I'm currently reading his best-selling book 12 Rules for Life. And rule 9 states be precise in your speech. And what Harris
Hmm.
just said, as you mentioned, Chris, it's it's far from precise.
And this
Nothing.
this other answer of hers that
You
gets
wouldn't.
me is when they ask her, you always said, like when Biden, before Biden got removed, they would always say, the press secretary, Kamala, they would all say, he's as sharp as he's ever been. He's so energetic. He does, like there was one time they said that President Biden runs circles around his staff. Like they can barely keep up with him. They always said all these things. And then all
Circles
of
or
a sudden it's like,
squiggles?
okay, oh yeah, he rose. I don't know. But and then he got removed, right, because of his horrific debate performance.
Yeah.
And so when they ask her, when did you notice? Because you praised him for so long that he's mentally sharp, he's energetic, he's all these things. When did you notice the mental decline? She never. They don't have an answer because this was a modern day political coup that they forced Joe Biden out of office. Obama did it.
Yeah.
He loves Kamala. Obama pushed him out, pushed Kamala in. Obama's still running shit in the Democrat Party.
I mean, he's young. He's relatively young in the political spectrum.
Yeah, they're
I
still
think
using
he's
his
one of the
name.
youngest who was he's one of the youngest presidents
He might
who
have been
served
the
in
youngest,
office.
maybe.
Yeah.
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 With the thing regarding Kamala is, if she thinks that she's gonna be getting away with praising Joe Biden, how can she actually explain why she's now there? Like, if you're gonna be heaping praises on the dude, why isn't he your candidate? If you have this much trust in him, you're
Right.
still gonna
And
be
why?
you're still gonna be the running mate. Like, nothing actually changes for you. Like, if you
Mhm.
think this is gonna be a decline on his part, you're the VP and you're next in line in case anything happens to him. But why all of a sudden push the guy out now if you're that confident?
Right. And Kamala Harris was pushed out when she ran for president.
Yeah.
Uh, she got like not even 1% of the vote. Like nobody liked her.
Wow.
I was
And then
actually
there was
thinking
no.
about Tulsi back then. Tulsi was
I
actually much
like Tulsi,
nearer,
man.
right?
Yeah.
Tulsi or
Yeah.
Andrew Yang is actually among the front runners. And who was the youngest? It's Buttigieg, right?
Pete Buttigieg. Yeah.
Yeah.
The transportation secretary.
There were so many opportunities of having many firsts back then, but they went with the old faithful, literally old faithful.
Literally old Pete. That's a that's a good pun. And I think Buttigieg is gay. So
Yeah,
He
that would
is.
have
either
that would have ticked so many boxes for them.
right.
He's young. He can
But
still be
he has.
taken seriously.
He's
He
young. He's
served in the
gay.
military. Like,
He's
how many buzzwords do you need for an election campaign?
right.
But
He can slap
he
ass
has a
and kick ass
terrible.
at all at the same time.
He has a terrible. He has a terrible track record as the Secretary of Transportation.
Yeah, because I
Oh,
don't think
that
that's his specialty. Like, do you think these people commute?
That
yeah.
that's his role.
Yeah, that's a real
Would
given
have
to
been a
him.
good he would have been a good defense secretary.
He can't. Why? No, he can't even defend his own butthole. He can't even defend the whole country. But there were
No
supply
exit plan,
chain
Chris. No
issues.
exit plan.
No, fuck that. No. Uh,
No
uh,
withdrawal.
but during the supply chain issues, he was on maternity leave with his
Yeah.
husband because they had uh, bought a new baby or adopted a new baby.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is a chain. This is uh, a supply chain crisis, and you go on maternity leave. I understand if you're a woman and you physically gave birth, like of course you need time to physically recover. Bro,
Yeah.
you adopted a baby. You don't need to go on leave during this crisis.
Yeah, there's a reason why Batman doesn't start a family.
Yeah. Not to mention, we can go on about
He's the last of the Waynes.
the the toxic chemical spill in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
That's also the response is on him. He's Secretary of Transportation. He dropped the ball. So many the FAA with Boeing airplane pieces falling out of the sky. That's on him.
Yeah.
There's
Now
no
Boeing
way he
is
could.
bouncing all over the place.
I
There's
think
no
of
way
those
he could run
kinds
for president.
Boeing.
like
He would be
like
he would be eaten
regarding.
alive in the Democrat primary. They would
I
eat him
figure those are
alive,
the
much
kind
less
of
against
position that
Republicans.
those are the kind of position that you need a majority of life experience to actually handle. Like
Or at
him
least
being
somebody who gives
young,
a shit.
but him being young, like Buttigieg when he actually ran, is quite an advantage for him because he's actually relatable, tolerable to some, and is still teachable. The problem with this is he was foisted into a position or a department which requires extensive knowledge into areas that is not his specialty.
Mm,
Like, is he an
yeah.
economics major or something? I don't know much about his background
Right, but
in
what's that
terms of
tell you
supply
about
chain.
what's that tell you about Joe Biden though? Why are you putting economic made and get the
But
right appoint the right people?
yeah, but
This
Joe
was a
Biden
favor,
has
probably.
everything's about everything about every administration is a favor because you want those that actually competed with you during the
Mm,
primaries to have at least a seat at the table. So there are
Yeah,
no
but
hard
that's
feelings regard between the parties because these people are still going to be voting for your nomination for the next one.
yeah, but
You
that's
still
that's
you still want a career
that's
after this if you actually lose the primaries. Like I know these are just favor hires, but they could have picked a
yeah.
much better spot for Buttigieg.
Frankly,
Yeah, back in
Buttigieg is a DEI hire.
so is Kamala.
So is Kamala. Like everyone is
Yeah.
actually
Fair point.
required to be not white and not male. Like Bernie has been screaming at the top of his lungs to make me president for more than how many years now, and
Yeah.
he hasn't
Now,
actually been
now
given
he's
any
an old
chance.
curmudgeon in the Democratic
Could it be
Party.
that it's because of ageism? Could it be that it's because he's male? Could it be it's because he's white? He certainly doesn't look incompetent.
Yeah.
And since a majority of what he's actually screaming right now, some Republicans actually agree with them.
For all of this,
I'm gonna
for all the disagreements that we have about, or I have personally about Bernie Sanders, he's the most competent one in the on the blue side of politics.
So my question for the Democrat is at this point, like who would have been the proper choice besides Kamala? Like that's what saddens me the most is this is the only choice you guys had.
I've been saying this. I've been saying this. I have a few students that are really into geopolitical stuff, older students. And I've been saying this for years. Like
They had 4 years
My
to
kind of
find a
crowd.
they were
candidate.
like they asked me like who can do it, and honestly,
I
I think Gavin Newsom is probably their best bet.
Not even Gavin Newsom. Like if you consider when
Not even
Obama
Gavin
actually
Newsom,
won,
no.
when
So,
Obama actually
yeah,
won,
Newsom has his own skeletons in the closet. So
Yeah,
yeah,
well, he tanked
it's
gotta be
California.
it's
questioned.
like remember when Obama actually won? No one actually knew him, and this is why I think
Mm.
who was the New Jersey governor back then?
Chris
Uh,
Christie.
Chris Christie. Chris Christie was actually really good back then, and he was actually a front runner for their party to actually run
Mhm.
for a presidency. This was back. When was this? 2000, 2008, right? 2008.
Yeah,
Then McCain actually picked up the torch. Problem with him is his reason why he didn't actually run was because he felt like he was still new to politics and he's still unknown. But Obama took that as an advantage. Like no one actually knows me right now. They can't actually find anything on
mm.
me. People will still be curious regarding what I say. So I'm gonna run with this. and I'm gonna use social media to actually direct the narrative.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Democrats should
Trump
be
Trump
doing
Trump
that
made
right
that
now.
Trump made that point the other day in the on the Rogan thing. He was saying like if it's a politician, when you're appointing people, a politician has been vetted, they're a politician, right? Everything, everything
Yeah,
about them.
there's a
But he
Wikipedia
was
page
like,
for you.
even though I know, yeah, he's like, even though I know this person and I know that they would do really well in this position, I'm not going to appoint them because I don't know what is in their history, right? Like I don't know what they've done. Like I know them professionally, but as soon as I say I'm going to put, so and so here, then all of a sudden you have all these revelations that come out, and
Yeah,
it's like you can't. It kind of limits the pool of people that you can appoint.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of just the presidency, I figured they would have gone for someone that's actually virtually unknown to everyone and have them make the interest of the entire campaign knowing the guy. That removes any interest on the other candidate who the people actually knows. That would have been a much better bet for them to actually
Mm.
hedge on, right? So they missed this opportunity to create a much bigger star than Obama at this point, a political star. Because that's what's missing from the Democrats' act, excitement of something new.
Yeah.
And people want to
And
shy
it,
away from politics
and
being a popularity contest. It's not.
I mean,
It's
it's quite
completely a
ironic that
popularity contest.
Yeah,
it's quite
Ironically,
ironic
not
that
winning the popular vote.
yeah, it's quite ironic that uh they're the progressives and they're the ones who are into new things and new personalities and new ideas, and they're not they're not really into new
Yeah,
persons
not
who would who lead the party.
not in terms of playing the Game of Thrones. Like the Republicans are so good at this. Like say what you want. A lot of people have said a lot of things bad about the Republican
yeah,
Party, but they still keep getting away with it. Why? Because they only have one narrative, and it's the narrative of the party. We stick by it. Thereby, our base
yeah.
actually
That's
becomes
Party
true.
strong.
loyalty,
Party. It's called
party loyalty, Chris, right? Or
party
oh
lines.
yeah.
Party
Party
lines.
lines, right?
Yeah,
So
like they stay on party
they
lines. Yeah,
stay on brand.
To be fair,
Like the Democrats, they
yeah, to
eat
be
each
fair,
other, so
yeah,
to speak.
to be fair to
yeah,
the Republicans, yeah, they're sticking to their guns, figuratively
yeah.
and perhaps literally because of the Second Amendment.
Well, it's
If
our
there's gonna
right
Yeah,
be, yeah, if there's gonna be an advantage to
as
this coming
Americans to
election,
defend yourself.
it's the parties actually sticking with each other. Now, if you will look at the recent pollings, you might see everything in 50-50. But what I'm seeing right now is everything is actually leaning on Kamala. How do you pronounce her name, by the way?
mm.
Kamala.
I don't know.
I'll
Some
just
are
call
saying
her.
Kamala. Most of the folks that I've listened to say Kamala.
Kamala.
Yeah,
Okay, if you look
Yeah,
at the polling
Kamala.
right
I guess
now,
it's Kamala.
I think Kamala is actually on track to actually win because the states that have been flipped in 2020 still haven't been flipped back to red. So there's a high
but
possibility that these states would actually stick. The major question right now is for
then
Arizona, do they
again,
still want to go with Democrat since they actually went against Trump during the last election? It's McCain country, so
it's too.
do you
Then
think,
again,
Chris,
it's
it would
too
flip
close to
without
call
Biden in the
at
race?
this
Because
point.
the only reason for that
It's
state
too
to actually
early.
still go blue is actually Biden still being in it. Like 100%, not
Well,
maybe
there's two things that happen really about politics in America right now. Is there's people that vote for the Democrats because they believe in the Democrats, which is that's what democracy is. If that's what you believe, if that's what you want, then vote for him. But there's a lot of people that vote Democrat because they don't like Trump. And like that to me is just that's a bad idea. And I feel like the media pushes a lot of narratives, the
You,
January 6th, the Russia thing, the grab
you,
him by the pussy thing, the he's
you
racist,
might
he's Hitler,
even
he's a threat
argue
to
that it's the
democracy.
same
They
thing
push
with.
these things and it creates this animosity.
You might even argue it's the same thing with the Trump voters. Like they might not like Trump, but at least he's not a Democrat. Like
Mhm.
their argument is, yeah, this is
Yeah.
Trump. We know what we're getting with him, but at least he's not saying that men can have babies.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's much more tangible reasons to vote for Donald Trump. Like you could afford groceries. If you just do a quick Google on the how much more things are expensive now than they were 4 years ago, it's in the 200-300% range. Like eggs are like 200% more expensive. Building materials, three, four,
Yeah,
hundred percent more expensive. Gas is more expensive. So if you're going to, if Joe Biden says we're going to do the Inflation Reduction Act, and then inflation goes down, and you say, "Good job, Mr. Biden," then you also have to be able to say, "Hey, inflation is way up. You're
I
screwing the
figure,
pooch here, Mr. Biden."
I
Like
figure
it
the
can't just
prices
be the
going up.
positives.
The prices going up would just be by technology and the pricing actually catching up because people actually spent a lot during the past couple of years to furnish themselves with new technology to actually make up for the pandemic. That's why prices are actually drawing up.
No,
It would
it's
take
Yeah.
some time for it to actually
no,
go down.
it's the
Yeah, but
U.S.
I
government
understand what
sending
you're saying.
$80 billion to Ukraine.
But I understand what you're saying regarding prices. But the Ukraine stuff is actually different because that's spending on other countries. I don't even know how the U.S. actually benefits from it. How does America actually benefit from sending
And
cash
just
aid
to
to war torn countries? By the way, if someone can actually enlighten me with that, that's still a mystery to me. If I send financial and
yeah.
military aid to
It's
a
laundering.
country, yeah, that's my question. How does it benefit the country? Like everything's about money for everyone, particularly government, and these are taxpayer monies that are being sent abroad. Like if you're gonna be sending money to your
Yeah,
kid and he'd be spending it on booze and smokes, you would be pissed,
yeah, on his friends.
right? Not even on
Yeah,
himself, on your friends.
Yeah.
So what is the end goal here?
they say stability in the region, but it's bullshit.
Yeah. So
Like
When
like
was the Middle East stable anyway?
when they're playing in their casinos,
Right?
that's the only
yeah.
time they're actually stable. Like
I mean,
the
if
major
you want to
agenda of the
see
election
if you
is
want me to
actually
give
going to be
you
part of
a
this. Like who
if you
has
want me
the
to give
much
you
better
a clear
status?
cut a clear cut example of shitty policies that first created the fuel increase, the gas price increase was when Donald Trump was president. America was energy independent for like the first time in 50 years. Like we were
Yeah.
producing more oil than we were using, and we weren't buying any.
Yeah.
Joe Biden comes in. That we had a there's a pipeline running from I don't know if it was from Alaska, but it was from up there, and it was running all the way down through the United States to the Gulf.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden stopped the Keystone XL pipeline.
Mm.
Right, this crippled the gas industry. He did no new fracking, which they dig for gas, they dig for oil, natural gas, and then Russia had a pipeline running through Eastern Europe to Germany
Hmm.
that Donald Trump had stopped, the
Yeah.
Nord Stream. He was like, "Y'all not doing that." He's like, because
Another one in Canada, right?
America protects Germany.
There's
Yeah,
another one in Canada, right?
America protects America. Yeah. America protects Germany from Russia. Like that's why we have German troops, or that's why we have U.S. troops in Germany.
In Germany.
And yeah, it's and because both countries are part of
Okay.
NATO,
Yeah.
so that's
So
that.
uh, the pipeline Germany was going to be paying Russia billions of dollars every year, and Trump was like, "Wait a minute, why are we defending you against this place, and then you're going to give them billions of dollars?" Trump stopped the Nord Stream, greenlit the Keystone.
Yeah.
Biden comes in, kills the Keystone, greenlights Nord Stream. That one move benefited only Russia. It wouldn't be a problem if it benefited Russia and the U.S. too. Only Russia,
Yeah, that's why
and
I'm
crippled U.S.
questioning.
energy with one swipe of a pen.
Like, what benefits do the U.S. actually get with this one? Is it just because they could actually position troops in these countries? Like they have that excuse, like, hey, we
It's
donated to
strategic.
you, just give us ticket. Like that's it.
It's strategic. I mean, yeah. When we help a country, we don't leave. Look, we're still in Japan, we're still in South Korea, we're still in the Philippines. We don't leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And it's
the
strategic. It's
military
not
actually
charitable. It's
leaves.
100% strategic.
The
And the
military
only
actually
time that
leaves,
you
but the
the
travel
only time that
bloggers
the
actually stay.
Americans
So please take back your travel bloggers from the Philippines. At least some of them. There are good ones.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. But you know what? The only time that the Americans leave is when their position in that country is untenable. Vietnam, Afghanistan,
Well,
you know.
Afghanistan, yeah, Vietnam. Safe to say we lost that war.
Yeah, Kamala already showed her hand. Like
Yeah.
you told me, when was this? Yesterday, Chris?
That's
That there
that's
are different
I
ads being
mean
shown
that's
for her
fair
for
and
Jews
square
and Muslims.
laws.
You guys
I
still
sent it to
there?
you in Telegram.
Yeah, there are different ads being run
Yeah,
for Jews and Muslim. Like this came when? Like
yeah.
Mm.
this was just this November, right? That this
Couple
happened.
couple days ago, maybe a
Like
week.
talk about
Yeah,
a
yeah,
faux
yeah.
pas before an
Might have been
election
within this
week.
month. Yeah.
And we'll provide it as well in the video description below. So do check it out as well. The article that Chris shared to both of us.
That's why
But yeah,
I
it's
that's why I didn't think there was a better move for them to actually do after the Biden debates. It's either they switch with another candidate or just stick with Biden. I figured the result would still be the same.
is if the Democrats would have been playing the long game, if they wouldn't have been so petty, they wouldn't have cheated last election, and they would have let Donald Trump win, and Donald Trump would be out of their hair now. It'd be done. It'd be over. But no, what did they do? They expanded it for 4 more years. So they had to deal with Trump the whole 4 years Biden was president, and now they're going to have to deal with him another 4 years if he gets
Yeah,
elected.
but if we think
They
about
should
it,
have just
if if Trump actually let's say survived the pandemic years, what's gonna be the rhetoric behind his presidency? Do you think the Democrats can actually afford him actually going through with the pandemic, coming out unscathed?
no. That's
Right.
the pandemic was the best thing that happened to him.
Do you think the Democrat would actually experience a seat in the executive part of the government after that? No, they would force him
No.
out. Even I would force him out if I was gonna be a Democratic candidate or planning to hold an office. There would be no hope after that one because remember 9/11, what happened back then? Bush was actually failing in the polls.
Yeah.
After that tragedy, what happened? It actually revitalized his base, and it was actually extended another year.
Mhm.
If it wasn't because of
He went to full
Afghanistan,
term.
and if it wasn't just for Afghanistan and all that thing, without having an exit strategy, I figured another Republican would have been voted in rather than a Democrat.
Yeah.
So it was only logical for them to actually get Trump out. If they waited for another 4 years for him, you might not have seen Biden or any other Democrat in office for the next couple of, let's say, for about 3 more terms.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's the problem with like we were just talking about a minute ago, right? Like who do they have? They really don't have anybody in the wings.
They don't have anyone that they will support. I think that's a much better.
The Republicans have, let's say, worst case scenario. Well, not even worst case scenario. Let's say if Trump wasn't a candidate now, you still have Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
People love him. Um,
Yeah.
uh, JD Vance, who is now, I mean,
Vice
watch
President,
it.
Vice President nominee.
Watch his Rogan interview and his discussion on Theo Vaughn. Dude's just a regular dude. He's just a regular ass dude, and he's from my neck of the woods. He's from Appalachia in Kentucky.
Mm.
Uh,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
I'm,
So you, JD Vance, and Wendigoon have something in common.
who?
Wendigoon.
Wendy Goon?
I
Yeah.
heard Wendigo.
Isaiah Nichols, aka Wendigoon.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, same here.
He's a YouTuber. Horror YouTuber.
Oh shit. I'm Kaya Goon.
Yeah.
I thought it was a girl and her name was Wendy Goon.
I heard
Ah.
Wendigo, so
Yeah.
but a Wendigo is a different
It's
thing.
basically a wordplay on Wendigo. Yeah. So
Mm.
shout out to Isaiah. Yeah. I hope you watch this.
Where's he
Send it to
from?
him.
Appalachia. So I'm not sure where in the Appalachia, but yeah. It's, I've I've discovered that he's from the Appalachia because of some some
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't want to say something bad about this guy, but Zane Whitener, aka In Praise of Shadows, has I don't know if he doxed him, but he said in his video that he's from the Wendigoon is from the Appalachia areas.
Yeah.
Uh, did he say it in a derogatory way? Because they assume that because we're from the South, because we're from the mountains, we're ignorant and stupid.
Oh yeah,
Because we talk like this.
exactly. But before we get out of tangent, the Republicans have very good candidates and politicians who have been running. You mentioned DeSantis. You mentioned JD Vance. You also have Nikki Haley. Okay,
Nikki Haley.
I'm if there's a female president that could deserve that role, it's Nikki Haley. Either her or Tulsi Gabbard. So they can fight it out for that.
And then the
Yeah,
superstar, one of the guys that I love the most, uh, 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 Vivek Ramaswamy.
yeah,
He's a
that
fucking
guy
superstar,
too,
man.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
He's a superstar. Uh, old buddy from Texas with the eye patch.
Nick
Not
Fury.
sure. Nick
The
Fury.
original Nick
Original
Fury.
Nick Fury.
Crenshaw,
Yeah.
Dan Crenshaw,
Dan Crenshaw.
former Special Forces.
Oh, badass.
Yeah, I mean he lost an eye in combat.
You got a purple.
Yeah,
That's
something
an
to
automatic
actually
purple
put in
heart.
front of
Oh,
Putin that
absolutely.
he's actually going to be scared of.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's there's so many options. Like, you know, if it's basketball terms, right? In basketball terms, the Republicans got a deep bench.
Yeah.
The Democrats are,
All
I mean, they're
sitting on the
playing.
floor.
Yeah, you know.
Amateurs.
Yeah, they got, you know, they struggling, man. And it's because of their weak ass policies. Because they push shit like men and women's
I
sports.
don't think it's about policies right now, Chris. I think it's about supporting those policies more. Because no matter what, you can think what you want about the Republicans. Like, they never actually left Trump during his time in actually campaigning. Even with the Pussygate and stuff.
Yeah.
Their rhetoric still remains the same. But the problem with the Democrat is just one mistake from one of their constituents, they actually distance themselves from it. Like, remember what happened with the Clinton stuff and Al Gore? Like when the entire Clinton and what was the intern's name?
Monica Lewinsky.
Monica Lewinsky happened. Al Gore actually distanced himself from Bill. It
Yeah.
actually hurt his campaign, his bid for the presidency back then. So this is the problem with the
Mhm.
Democrats. Like they don't actually support their own.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean
They they tend to
they are the
forget
swamp.
they tend to forget the good that they have done just for the sake of not being associated with the bad stuff.
Yeah. And
That's basically cancel culture, ladies and gentlemen.
they do a lot of virtue signaling, which is gross. It's fucking cringe.
Yeah,
Uh,
fucking cringe.
it's terrible.
Anyway,
Like Tim Walz claims that he's a football coach when he said he's had a few gaffes where he was like he said he tried to relate the election, the campaign to a football game. He's like, we're in the final quarter.
What?
We don't call it it's the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Nobody says final quarter.
it's the
It's the
fourth
fourth
quarter.
quarter.
Yeah.
Bottom of the fourth, or bottom of the fourth. That's fucking baseball. But like 2 minutes left in the fourth, right? Something like that. You don't say final quarter.
Yeah.
You sound like a fucking cheerleader.
Final quarter.
Yeah.
Even in
Perhaps
basketball, you
it's
don't say that.
other sports that have a quarterly that can be acceptable, but not really in American football. Either way, it's gonna be a weird edit for that. But anyway, before
What did I
that
miss?
happened, I was asking Chris about the anecdotes about Tim Waltz and his alleged disgrace of the uniform.
Yeah. Stolen valor. He said he was in battle and he wasn't.
Mm. And
He
then
retired right before his unit was supposed to go overseas. He just retired. And he was already sergeant major. He was like sergeant major or about to make sergeant major or something. Like, bro, you don't really be doing nothing. Like you're not carrying guns in the field.
At least Bush
You're
was
doing
actually
logistics.
At least Bush was actually honest in being a draft dodger back then.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I would rather you nobody wants to go to war, right? For the most part.
Yeah, these are
So it's
children.
more relatable for you to say, like, bro, I didn't want to go, than to say, oh yeah, I went, and then it's like, no, you didn't, because a lot of us went and didn't have a choice and stayed there for
Yeah.
fucking a long ass time. And he's like,
So
yeah,
I don't want to see the guns on the street that I carried while in war, and everybody's like, whoa, you ain't go over there, bro. You ain't carry no weapon in war. You
yeah.
retired right before your unit left. You retired, and I don't mean to discredit anyone that volunteers to serve their country, but, but as as an active Army veteran, I get I know the National Guard was over there a lot. I know they were, but bro, you can't tell me that the National Guard is the same as active Army.
Ian, you
Yeah.
still haven't given us your prediction of who will win.
Mm.
We've gone on for an entire hour, but you haven't told us who
I'm,
do you think will win.
yeah, that's a good call. I I really don't have a horse in this race.
Neither
As a
have I.
Filipino, I
Neither
really
do
don't
I.
have a horse in this race. But given the political environment in the United States at this point, the incompetency of the Biden administration has been prevalent in this in the 4 years that he's president, and now Harris is supposed to succeed him.
Mm.
Perhaps um, she's way too inexperienced to replace Biden at the White House.
Yeah, but who do you
That's
think
my
will win?
prediction.
What What's your
Well,
prediction?
You're right, 100%. That's not really a prediction. That's more of just a correct statement.
analysis, but uh, it's too close to call at this point.
Too close to call.
Too
It's
close or too early to
tomorrow.
call. Oh shit! too early to call, right? Rather, sorry, it's too early to call at this point.
It's a
But
prediction. If you were gonna be looking at
but
everything right now,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Gun to your head. Prediction or die. Who's your prediction?
Trump.
Trump.
My man.
So we got.
I mean, God, he has to, bro. He has to. Jesus Christ, he's got to win. Please, Lord, let him win.
I
We got.
mean,
Or you got a
We got
better
two
you.
Trump.
He's got a better relationship with you, Ian. Maybe you should talk to him.
hey, I don't. As I said, I don't have a horse. I don't have a horse in this fight, or I don't have a
every
horse in
time
this race. But
every time I'm in a pinch and it's like, Lord, please. He's like, is it you again, boy? You just be popping up just sometimes. You don't really be talking to me that much.
See,
Just
yeah,
every now
but
and
and
then.
and I did
actually,
preface my
the one
prediction
that
like.
sealed the deal. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, Christian. Go ahead. Yeah, the one that the thing that sealed the deal was his close call in Pennsylvania.
Mm,
That sealed the deal because he was shot, but he managed to stand on his feet. Maybe he lost his shoe in the process, but he, he's still he's still alive, and he was fist in the air and said, "Fight, fight, fight."
Like after
That
this time,
sealed
I'm
the
for
gonna be
deal.
you?
shouting at at my ISP
Yeah.
after this
Yeah.
podcast.
That actually I think a lot of people share that same sentiment.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
with just one frame, you could tell. But for this one, I really feel that Kamala would win, and I don't feel good about it. Like,
Well, at least
yeah,
that's
and
also a good way to
because
see things. That
because people have been underestimating the democratic trend when it comes to voting for the past years now. After the last election, people said there's gonna be a red wave, but how many elections has there been? Minor ones, Senate seats that have turned blue, where people have predicted it would turn red.
mm,
Like, it's hard to underestimate the democratic vote right now, since there's a lot more at stake for
Right.
them,
yeah,
considering
but
they are the ones that are being turned into villains at this point. Maybe they will just be voting for Kamala as a form of
yeah,
spite. And
you
if you
know,
think about it, the Republican vote at this point, based on just my logic, the way they treated Trump
Yeah.
during his
I think
exit, do you think they would want an angry Trump back to go against them? You want someone as
right.
yeah,
vindictive as that back in
that's
office
fair.
right after you actually validated the voting in 2020?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Um, and just to add, uh, if Kamala indeed wins this year's election, she would have it. She would have a very hard time convincing Americans of all political perspectives to trust her
Yeah.
because yeah, sure, she is the vice president for Joe Biden, but you know uh would you do something better? That's the question, right? We've
Mm,
been talking about this for an hour now, and the fact that if Kamala Harris wins, of
The fact
course,
that we can't pronounce her name correctly is
there
gonna
will
be an
be
issue.
doubts in a lot of Americans. Yeah, the fact that uh, some Americans um, saw the Trump assassination attempt as a you know as a catalyst, and Kamala Harris still wins, it's gonna set doubts in them.
In regards to
Why
these
did she
elections,
why did she
I
still win?
In regards to the election, I usually look at the North and South Dakota. Like, why do you guys have two Dakotas? By the way,
I don't know. They both
that's
worthless. Ain't nobody even lives
like
in North Dakota.
that's greedy.
That shit just there. It's like a
That's greedy, Dakota.
it's
You
like a
have four senators for this one. Like,
yeah.
like four senators for you,
Well,
just you.
it's more populated. It's more populated than Wyoming, so
No,
yeah.
it's basically just a square. Am I
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It's just a square on the map. You don't need to divide that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all of the
Yeah,
two ones are
I
actually.
don't know why that stays there.
But maybe because the United States is so vast that a unified Dakota state would be too much to handle geographically. So
Who's the senator
yeah.
for Dakota? Like,
Who the fuck
another
knows?
question for you
Is it
guys
Christy?
is.
No, she's a governor. Christy Noem, I think.
Yeah, another question for you guys is, you are Trump. You think Trump would actually win? But is there anything with regards to Kamala, even one that would make you think that she would win,
Well, for me,
or would cause people to actually vote for her
uh,
that you can see?
I guess for me it's because she is the vice president, and it's a natural succession. So that's that's also what I'm seeing. That could be a factor. That's one. A second one is as Chris said, uh those who are voting for Kamala Harris hate Donald Trump. That's another one.
Mm,
Finally, uh it all boils down to uh their personal perspectives or personal beliefs or their personal ideologies. If they are really progressive minded, they would rather vo- rather vote for an inexperienced, uh, allegedly inexperienced politician just because she's a Democrat.
right. And because like I have a perfect question for you guys. So we're in the season now with the last few weeks where um celebrities and like they're getting these politicians are getting endorsements. Who not even let's see, not even politicians, right?
Yeah.
If who do you trust more? Someone who has created something and there in which um you know generated enormous amounts of wealth, or an actor. Because, like, the reason I ask is because Donald Trump is backed by Vivek Ramaswamy, Dana White, Elon Musk,
Peter Thiel.
got some big name, RFK,
RFK.
got some big names behind him, right? Like, yeah. And then Kamala's endorsed by Cardi B, Beyonce, J Lo, all of Hollywood,
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor
Like,
Swift.
I mean, who would you rather take advice from? A CEO or a guitar
Superstar.
player?
No, let's maybe not a guitar player, but a superstar.
Let's not even say
CEO
superstar.
or a
Let's just say
celebrity.
star. Hollywood, or a performer. Let's just say they're performers, is what they are. Would you rather listen to? Would you rather take advice from a CEO or a performer?
Or an entertainer. Yeah.
At this point, if regarding the choices that we have, like if I'm gonna be just looking at the sponsors that are gonna be advising me, what do you mean? If I was just solely gonna get my opinions or how I shape my decision based on the sponsorship or the endorsement that these candidates are having, if I was I if I was gonna be realistic, I wouldn't actually take any advice from these people
Right, of course.
in endorsements. Like I wouldn't necessarily buy a brand of hot dog based on who's the actor that's actually endorsing it. Like the taste doesn't change if it's Taylor Swift unless it's added with her sweat. So so it doesn't actually make any difference. Same thing with these politicians. Like, should I want to take financial advice from Cardi B? No. But if we're gonna be basing it on that, if that's the only criteria I can go with, I would probably go with those advising him on the business front. But that's an ill-advised decision on another front because the country doesn't need to be run as a business as much as people want to look at it that way.
I have to completely disagree with you on that one.
Please do.
I think America is 100% a business.
America, yes. You are correct. Your country needs to be run as a business because our
Right,
economy
right.
depends upon you.
Yeah.
But in
Right,
the
okay.
majority and scope of things, a lot of countries don't need to be run as a
Oh,
business.
A
That's
hundred
what I
percent,
mean
a
by it.
hundred percent, 100%. I agree. You're right. Yeah, America for sure it is a business.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's why we run everything by the dollar.
Yeah, I mean that's why we don't need a president. We need a
The,
CEO.
the UK pound is much stronger and they still check your money. So,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But to answer your question, Chris, even if I'm given that choice, I would rather think for myself, to be honest. Because
But think for yourself wasn't an.
yeah,
My question
think for
was
yourself wasn't an
who's.
option. Like I said, if you only had one way to actually make a decision,
I,
brain dead
let me
analysis.
let me clarify the question.
sure,
Whose endorsement holds more weight?
at this point,
Like, do I want to take financial um, policy advice from someone who has implemented policy in their successful businesses, right? Like if you just let's just take Dana White,
uh,
who
Yeah.
took a potentially what most people seen as a cancer, which was the UFC, and has turned it into probably one of the greatest things the world has ever seen.
I
uh-huh.
remember Vince McMahon actually saying, "What, son? You want to buy the UFC? That's never gonna make money."
Yeah, and now
Well,
you know what I'm saying. Like,
Now they're owned by the UFC.
would you rather? I feel that because these super successful people, and not only that, like Tulsi Gabbard switched
mm,
pop parties, RFK basically switched parties. Um, I mean, even Trump switched, but Trump was a Democrat for a long time. Like these people, this to me is like the big red sign that everybody needed to see to let
Yeah.
most people know, like, this is the right way. Like, look at these successful people,
I
If
guess
and then it's like you got the
the
Avengers.
operable, yeah,
but then again, you
the
have to think
operable
of
word
it.
for that is red.
But then again,
So
you have to think about it by degrees, Chris. Like these artists are actually a brand in itself, and the business they're managing is actually their name. There's a
yeah,
reason why they're millionaires. They
some of
made
these,
their
some of
they
these
made their
celebrities are self-made persons, right?
Mm,
they turned their skill into currency. Like you can argue that they're already businessmen. The only business that they have is actually their brand name. So
Mhm.
these two are actually still on equal footing. My problem with this one is who lies the most and who's made a living lying and who's out of touch.
That's exactly what I wanted to say, Christian. So yeah, that's a good point. I
So we can't
mean,
actually
I don't
discount
know.
the fact that's because these people are wearing fluffy things that they're not actual businessmen. Like we've just arrested one of those
mhm,
actual businessmen and his mansions are being raided, have been
yeah,
raided. So
I don't agree that
you
Hollywood
don't
celebrities and
you
people
don't
are on the
agree that
same level as successful CEOs.
don't you agree
perhaps
that Taylor Swift's
perhaps you have that perspective as an American, but
net
yeah,
worth
but
is
I
actually
understand
much
that.
bigger than Vivek Ramaswamy?
Yeah, but Vivek Ramaswamy built companies.
Yeah,
He
it's the
didn't
same
write a
thing with
song and
Taylor
has a
Swift.
nice voice.
and not getting on the Swiftie side here, but she's actually fought against music labels. That's why she's actually made her billions.
I
So
mean, I'll
it's
give her credit.
she's actually made a lot of strides regarding her own business, her own brand. It's not just her songs that she's handling. She's handling. She's also
I'll
handling
give
merchandising.
I'll give you credit. If I want advice about battling a record label or writing a song or having the largest tour in the world, then yeah, Taylor Swift. But if I want to know how to minimize overspending, then I want to talk to Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it's a matter of degrees, right?
It is absolutely. But when it comes to politics,
Yeah,
profit, money, finance, budgeting, spending,
Taxes.
I do
these
have.
are all huge things
I
that
don't know why.
I'm not asking Taylor Swift about.
I don't know why I have to point this out. We mentioned that
I would
Trump is
ask, I would
actually.
ask, I would ask Taylor Swift's accountant before
Yeah,
I asked her.
Or maybe her publicist. Or maybe
then that
her
means
yeah.
Yeah.
that
I
would
mean
also
she's
mean
her
that
own,
she's
but the
actually
thing
good at
is
actually
Taylor
building her
Swift is
team.
her own manager though.
Why are we fighting about
That
Taylor Swift? What the
I'm
fuck?
just, I'm just
I don't
saying.
know. I don't know.
But still, if you think about it, it's just Trump. I would actually take into consideration someone as like Warren Buffett, right?
Oh yeah.
He was considered someone that can actually predict the market, but not him. Not every businessman's advice is actually deemed deemed adjustable. But if I'm gonna take your question face value, with all factors, I would agree with you that I would rather take advice from the businessman, because, like I said, there's stigma when it comes to these artists on how much out of touch they are, and that's also another factor.
That's another factor.
Yeah, that's another fact. And
Michael Keaton. I love Michael Keaton. He stays on Instagram trying to be political, and it's like,
That's
bro,
why
you
I'm
haven't you
never.
haven't been to a grocery store in 3 decades.
That's why it's much easier for me to agree with
I mean,
businessmen being politicians rather than actors, actresses, artists, singers, songwriters,
Yeah.
painters, whoever you are that's in the entertainment industry to actually become politicians.
yeah. I
Right. But
mean,
I don't want to take away from anybody's
That's
intellect, right? Just because you're
uh,
an actor doesn't mean you can't be a politician. I'm just saying,
yeah.
looking at A and B, actors, CEOs, I would probably choose the CEO's advice.
yeah. If there was only one card to actually choose, you would probably
Right.
choose a CEO.
And I guess that's also the same thing that I really wanted to answer because um business is, not really tied to politics, but let's just say adjacent. And the entertainment industry, it's not at least it's 1 degree um far 1 degree away from politics. So that's how I see it. So I
Yeah.
guess to answer your question, Chris, I'd rather go with a CEO than with an entertainer.
So we have
Yeah.
two Trump, one Kamala. Like there should be an asterisk in my Kamala, by the way,
Yeah.
considering she doesn't flub anything up in about how many hours until the election.
Yeah. And there should
Because
also be an asterisk on Trump on my prediction on Trump
because
too.
Democrats have a history in regards to this. Things come up
Mm.
just before people vote.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're not above cheating. We already know this.
Mm.
Yeah, we'll see to that. And
Because
as
no
I
one's
said,
above
if
cheating.
Christian has an asterisk on his prediction, I also have an asterisk because yeah. I know it's more projection and I mean at this point it's just projection and all that shit, but it's just too early to call it in my perspective. So
What's the
yeah,
legal voting age in the U.S., Chris?
18.
18.
same with
Yeah.
us.
I
Yeah.
have a question for y'all. I have a
Yeah,
question
sure.
for you. Um, what reason do you imagine is what reason do politicians have for thinking that voter ID is a bad idea? Like, why would you say this?
Voter ID being a bad idea if you're a
Yeah,
politician. For one
yeah.
thing,
There's politicians in the United States that disagree with voter. Actually, in California, it is illegal now to ask for voter ID while someone is voting.
I guess it's
That's
more for my end. I think it's more of the implementation side. If I was the government, I should be looking at how much red tape this would actually cost people, and that would just give me pause. If it's gonna be much more hassle, then I don't think I would be requiring it. But then again, you would have to look at, because the state thing regarding the U.S. is something foreign to some countries where you have different laws that govern every citizen of every state. So every state has to be unified since you're all voting in one country. And when was the last time all states were actually in unison? I asked you this, Chris. I have no idea.
yeah.
What do you mean in unison?
Regarding the rules for the use of voter IDs when it comes to voting, because voting is
Oh,
it's a countrywide thing. It's not a
Yeah.
state thing.
yeah.
So if
It's
you
not a
have different
it's not
rules
a state
regarding
thing. It's a federal thing.
uh, if you have different rules governing different states regarding voter laws, some states might look at that sideways when it comes to how it's implemented. I feel like the implementation of it should be in unison with all states. And when has all the U.S. states actually agreed on one thing?
Uh, well, that's the beauty of the United States.
It's also a curse when it comes to implementation. Like you said, when it comes to drugs or medication, other state lines may
Yeah,
allow your medication, but when you cross state border, you're suddenly a criminal. So I don't think
right.
that's a benefit. What if it's actually something you need to live with? Uh, It's I don't see that as an advantage at that point. It actually
Yeah.
causes more confusion because I don't think a lot of Americans are actually aware of different laws between state lines.
Well, no, like if it's medicine that you need, it's legal everywhere.
Mm.
There are some prescriptions, right?
Mm, well, that's where it gets murky is if you get in trouble for like with intent to sell, or
Yeah.
like if you have a trash bag full of prescription medicine, that's not yours.
That's
If you get caught
that's
with
that's basically just smuggling, Chris. At that point.
it is. It is, but I mean you can have as long if it's prescribed from a doctor
Yeah.
and it's in the bottle and your name is on it and it's in your possession, no problem. Now, if you have six loose pills and
Yeah.
no bottle, that police may look at you like, okay, why do you we're like
Are you
That's
selling
this
or?
sus.
isn't the rules. The rules are it's in your bottle with your name on it in your possession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah,
Loose pills. That's sus.
right. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, certain things are at a federal level, right? Like voting age.
Yeah, because we have voter
And then
IDs
some
here in the
things,
Philippines. It's actually much easier.
that's the thing. I feel like the only reason that people would oppose voter ID is if you want people who should not be voting to vote. 'Cause, well, I don't understand the issue. You can just run down to the courthouse. They got all your information. Just go there and get you a little voter ID. It ain't hard.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it's different with your country because you have different states that actually oppose it. Ours is just
Right. It should be
one
federal
party.
law. It should be federal law,
And who
I
are
think.
the problem with that is, and I guess it's the reason why I forgot which president was this was actually proposing for the U.S. to be much better as a parliamentary rather than the Senate. It's actually much easier to
Mm,
pass a law that would be on the federal level.
Maybe something like Australia because uh they have a parliamentary system, but they still have a Senate. So it's just but it's still bicameral, but the
We have
executive lies on the lower house of that legislative system.
Yeah, but the parliamentary system actually causes you to be much more conscious since you're gonna be voted out as quickly like in Survivor.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it works in the Commonwealth, but that's a 50-50 in the United
Australia is not a
States.
small country; it's a
Oh yeah.
continent.
Oh yeah. It has a small
Yeah,
population, but
the voter ID
it's
thing. I
like
think
it's yeah,
the voter
it's
ID.
yeah, it's I mean, it's scattered everywhere across that continent.
Yeah, the voter ID thing works well for some. I don't think the U.S. would have an easy time with it. When was this actually proposed in the U.S.? It's been so long, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's common sense, I think, and people for some reason are like people call it racist,
It's
which is
just
crazy.
paranoia when it comes to this thing
But
when it comes to
everything they don't like they call racist.
and the government never actually made any assurances that it won't be as such, right? So it's not gonna be
Right.
something that's easily picked up or agreed upon by all the voters. Like if
Yeah.
there's a history of it, this being done, like gerrymandering and the likes, like I don't think people would trust being. It's a hassle if you
It
think
really
about
is.
it to many people. Like they see it as a hassle.
Yeah.
To us here in the Philippines, it's just normal. I guess in some
Which
countries it's
I
almost
think
accepted.
for um most level-headed people, it's a no-brainer. Like, yeah,
The,
there should be some type of ID.
just to give a bit of nuance, I think the reason why that voter ID is actually accepted here in the Philippines is actually being used as requirements for employment here in the Philippines. So it's a much easier. It has dual purpose, not just for voting but for seeking employment. So why not just get it? It's
Right.
still useful even if it's not an election year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the obvious answer is they don't want voter ID because they plan to let people vote who are not supposed to be voting.
Yeah, then they shouldn't be selling prepaid SIM cards, by the way, because that's basically the same thing.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah. uh,
Yeah.
it's uh,
good
it's
luck to
gonna be a
all of
long
us.
week, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah,
Hopefully, everything's done by Saturday and we get a result. I
yeah,
don't even know
Yeah,
what's the
hopefully.
fastest we're going to be getting the result of this. It was usually Saturday after the election. So, everyone, sit tight, brace yourselves. The
watch this
elections are
space.
coming. The
Yeah,
elections are coming, and we'd like to thank you for joining us in this pre-election roundup for the Paper Straw podcast, and we'd also like to invite you guys tomorrow, election day, further TUTC. We will be having another live event where we monitor the election. Moving forward, we'll be analyzing the polls, analyzing what's happening, looking at live streams for the elections in the United States. So yeah, everyone just keep safe.
and
Uh,
just to clarify, 4:30 a.m. UTC plus 8. That's Philippine Standard Time,
Philippine
right?
Standard Time.
So
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
around 12 noon. Not really 12 noon, but 4 minus 8.
Sorry,
Thir-
let me just give a bit of perspective. 4:30 uh a.m. Eastern. That would be 4:30 p.m. here in the Philippines.
and that should be 8:30 UTC. So
8:30
yeah,
UTC. So, yeah, hopefully people can actually join us. And if you're watching the replay on YouTube, yeah, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. For people who have watched us on Twitch, please don't forget to follow us.
yeah,
So,
we do appreciate it.
on behalf of my co-host, the intrepid Ian Rignon and the great Christopher Short, I'm Christian Tejares, and we'll see you in the next.